Welcome to a special report on 9/11, where we intended to directly address some of the special opinions that are still raised to this very day. It's on what exactly happened on that very day, and we are addressing them on this very day. Some might call that today. If you're watching this later, then your day is today. I guess everything's wrapped up in a neat little package. Really, I mean that. Sorry if it sounded sarcastic.
Mr. TC thought he would throw his hat in the ring regarding the conspiracy surrounding 9/11, and get this, he doesn't even wear a hat. We are through the looking glass, people.
If you wanted conspiracy theories to flourish after the 9/11 attacks, here's what you'd do.
Step number one, get on the internet and make up absolute bullshit.
You'd suppress video evidence of the attacks themselves.
And here is footage, despite the claim there wasn't. Got it. Makes sense.
You'd ship the rubble from the attacks overseas immediately without looking at it.
What did you want them to do? Leave it there and immediately? It took 8 months. Fires within the debris pile continued to burn for 99 days.
You'd call everyone who disputed the official narrative crazy or a criminal. You'd engage in a campaign of very obvious lies about the attacks. You'd do everything you could to prevent an actual investigation into what happened. You'd avoid any public trials. And when you captured and killed the perpetrator, you'd show no photos or video evidence of the raid that killed him, and then you'd dump his body into the middle of the ocean.
Preparator is defined as a person who carries out a harmful, illegal, or immoral act. Remind me, was he in America on 9/11, if ever? Private home reversing new Camel model out drive.
Then you'd use the attack to justify the invasion of a completely unrelated country on behalf of a foreign power. In other words, you'd do exactly what the US government did in the wake of 9/11. It's possible that there are people who wanted conspiracy theories to thrive.
Okay, here is something we agree on, and yeah, perhaps dumping the body wasn't the best look, but maybe they learned from Saddam.
The more far out, the better. The more time people spend wondering about directed energy weapons, the less time they focus on the obvious, the facts hiding in plain sight. And the main fact that they are ignoring is our government's central role in facilitating those attacks. We established this in episode 1 of this series, and the extreme levels of incompetence that made it possible for bin Laden from Kandahar, Afghanistan, to pull off the most sophisticated terror attacks in history.
Well, that's my point. It's an irrational act. It's like an expression of rage by people who feel neglected and turned away by the system.
On the other hand, not all the wildest theories about 9/11 are crazy. Some of them raise legitimate questions about what happened. And in this episode, we'll go through those theories one by one and explain using primary source documents, interviews with CIA officials, contemporary news reports, exactly what we know about those theories. The North Tower of the World Trade Center collapsed at 10:28 a.m. on the morning of 9/11, and when it did, burning debris fell and damaged several of the buildings around it, including a building called World Trade Center, building number 7. It was a 47-story steel frame high-rise located about a football field's length away on the other side of Vesey Street. Interestingly, there was a building between the North Tower and Building 7. That building did not collapse. The collapse of Building 7 is completely unaddressed in the 9/11 Commission report.
And an obvious answer to why that is because that WTC-7 was not directly attacked. The Commission's mandate
Was to investigate all AT attacks on 9/11, the key word being ATACs, including the Twin Towers, the Pentagon, and the crash in Pennsylvania.
It's worth noting all the other WTC buildings were demolished. Just because they didn't collapse didn't make them useful.
577 pages, but no explanation as to why Building 7 fell. And that provoked very obvious questions. People have been talking about it for the last 24 years.
And if you watch some of these pieces, you can actually see them.
Can you see them?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I can see them.
Turning to dust before they hit the ground.
A steel building doesn't fall into its own footprint because a plane hit another building a couple hundred yards away.
You know he is right, but one may or would because of structural damage to load-bearing columns, something they always conveniently leave out.
I did not see a plane. They said the plane hit the first building, the second building just exploded.
The circumstances around Building 7's collapse and the near total absence of an explanation for why it collapsed provoked, in the end, a Senate investigation.
Start with Building 7. Again, I don't know that you can find structural engineers that would say that that thing didn't come down in any other way than a controlled demolition.
It's all bullshit. All of it.
Controlled demolitions don't collapse inwards, which is exactly what happened. How do I know that? Because there was an explanation. In fact, this is even caught on camera in one angle. But to keep any conspiracy going, pointing that out just isn't good for business.
Building 7 had a pretty amazing list of tenants. They included, ironically, the New York City Office of Emergency Management. That would be the agency responsible for responding to the 9/11 attacks. On the 9th and 10th floors of Building 7 were the New York Field Office of the United States Secret Service. The equipment and records they kept there were destroyed that day when the building collapsed. The building's 25th floor was home to a secret CIA office. Its records were also destroyed. Across the 25th floor was a Department of Defense office. It's unclear exactly what it was doing there.
So let me get this straight. You are unclear why office space was utilized in New York City in a government building.
Right.
Building 7 was one of just 3 buildings that collapsed that day. The collapse of the other 2, the Twin Towers, got extensive coverage in the 9/11 report, of course. But Building 7 was almost entirely ignored.
Wait. Just hold your damn horses there, mister. You already said it wasn't referred to once in the 577-page report.
It's worth remembering that even on the morning of the 9/11 attacks, there were very prominent people already doubting whether a plane could take down a steel frame building.
I said, how could a plane, even a 767 or 747 or whatever it might have been, how could it possibly go through this steel? I happen to think that they had not only a plane, but they had bombs that exploded almost simultaneously, because I just can't imagine anything being able to go through that wall. It just seemed to me that to do that kind of destruction is even more than a big plane, because you're talking about taking out steel, the heaviest caliber steel that was used on a building. I mean, these buildings were rock solid.
Oh my God, so many things. First, this is the guy that uses the world's cheapest labor for construction. If a plane hit one of his buildings, the plane would probably survive. Number 2, he refers to the building as being made out of rock.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country.
Oh, okay.
One reason the 9/11 Commission may have effectively ignored the collapse of Tower 7 is because even now we don't really know much about it.
That's exactly right. You don't know much about it. You don't know much about it. Others do.
On the morning of September 11th, Lower Manhattan was cut off from the public with military-style checkpoints. World Trade Center Building 7 collapsed that afternoon at 5:20 p.m. Video that has been widely circulated appears to show it falling symmetrically into its own footprint. Several buildings closer to the Twin Towers, meanwhile, remain standing. That's odd. And then the debris was removed immediately and shipped to Asia. That's even stranger.
Where is all the rubble gone?
First, they complain that you're not doing enough. Then they complain that you're shipping the problem to Asia. Isn't that where we ship half of our problems?
When you look at where the towers used to stand, there is surprisingly so little rubble. Where did all the rubble go?
Check out my rubble pit, a mystery unraveling. Wu-Tang is the CD that I travel with. Don't go against the plane if you can't handle it.
See, it's in Asia's rubble pit. Case closed. Celeste, are they still doing that chili crab pasta downstairs that I like?
They are.
If you look behind me, you can see the very remains, the skeletal remains of the World Trade Center. And one volunteer, Robert Gerlinski, explained to me the reason there's so little rubble is that all of it simply fell down.
Did you hear that, everyone? It simply fell down. May as well had that guy on the official report. Am I right?
Into the ground and was pulverized, evaporated. Now, I should say, though, for the last several hours, there's been a steady stream of dump trucks and other very large vehicles carrying out debris.
According to a New York Times article published 5 months after the attacks, quote, an unknown number of steel columns has been sent off to mills as far away as Asia without ever having been examined or saved. This made it nearly impossible for engineers to answer the monumental questions of exactly why and how the buildings, designed to sustain a jet impact, completely collapsed. To the extent that any analysis of the debris was done at all, it was done by volunteers at a scrapyard in Jersey City, New Jersey. According to the New York Times, the deepest mystery uncovered in the investigation involves extremely thin bits of steel collected from the trade towers and from 7 World Trade Center, a 47-story high-rise that also collapsed for unknown reasons. The steel apparently melted away, but no fire in any of the buildings was believed to be hot enough to melt steel outright. 2 agencies investigated the collapse. One was FEMA, which relied on volunteers, and the other was NIST, the National Institute for Standards and Technology, funded by Congress.
Great. So first, it was nearly impossible for engineers to access the metals, and now there are 2 independent agencies who gave detailed explanations.
Right.
FEMA's explanation is that falling debris from the North Tower damaged the outer facade of Building 7 and started a series of fires in the lower floors. According to NIST, the collapse of the towers in the morning had damaged water mains, so the building's sprinkler systems failed. Since the building had been evacuated earlier in the morning and the fire department's resources were stretched to a breaking point by ongoing search and rescue missions, fire chiefs made the decision early on not to fight the fires that were burning in Building 7. According to the NIST report, thermal expansion of steel beams, not the complete melting of steel, caused the connections tying a crucial girder 2001A, to column 79, and that joint failed. The girder walked 6¼ inches off its seat, and that precipitated what is known as a progressive collapse.
So you see what he said there. The joint failed, not that the fire melted steel, blah, blah. Now, Celeste, about that chili grab pasta.
That means that the collapse started in one area and then spread downward due to gravity through the rest of the building. That's the explanation. There are 2 questions that come to mind, and both are obvious. First, if there was just one failure point, then why does video evidence show the building coming down symmetrically, all at once, at freefall acceleration?
Oh, dear God, that was a lot to listen to. I thought I could feel my brains leaking out my ears. You can't see that, can you? No? Oh, good. Now that my brains are in check, let's get a brief rundown on what really happened with Building 7, and big surprise, it starts underground.
And finally connected to the ground via these transfer trusses. By observing this visual, you'll get a clear idea about how the load of these 8 trusses were transferred to the ground. This structural technique is known as transfer truss method. The issue's not over yet. Few perimeter columns of WTC-7 were also interfering with the substation. They were also connected to the ground via transfer trusses. Even though 8 columns are not connected to the ground directly, these transfer trusses made sure that the central columns are still strong. Please keep the details of the structural connections in your mind. They'll play an important role in understanding the collapse of WTC-7. From the north side, this building looks intact. But let's turn the camera to the south side. This was the true condition of the building, enduring a huge fire, with a big gash on the perimeter columns. Did you notice a long gash on the south side of the building? How exactly did this happen? The only way the perimeter columns of WTC-7 create such a long and consistent gash is due to the fall of the spire from the North Tower. Look at this image. They're pretty close. Did the WTC-7 come down at freefall speed? No, it did not. If you analyze the original footage of the collapse, the top 18 floors came down in 5.4 seconds. This time period is 40% more than the freefall time, which is 3.9 seconds. Most of the re-uploaded videos on YouTube are uploaded after increasing the footage speed by exactly 40%. A nice trick to bring the building down at freefall speed. If you compare the WTC-7 collapse with WTC-1 and 2, you'll be able to see the stark difference in the physics of the collapse. In WTC-1 and 2, during the collapse, you won't observe any motion in the bottom region of the building. It's a top-down, progressive collapse. However, in WTC-7, without the core columns, the entire building went down together.
To sum it up, the building was built like shit. You ever worked in construction? In New York, my God, the corners that are cut.
How have other steel frame buildings around the world, similar in design to that in Tower 7, fared during fires? In 1991, for example, the 38-story One Meridian Plaza in Philadelphia had an 8-floor fire that burned for 18 hours, and yet the building didn't collapse. In 1988, the 62-story First Interstate Bank building in Los Angeles had a massive fire that started on the 12th floor. There was no structural failure. In 2017, the 24-story Grenfell Tower in London burned for over 24 hours, and yet the internal steel withstood the fire. So why then did Building 7 collapse after just 7 hours of burning, in a way that no steel frame building anywhere in the world has ever collapsed?
Did any of those buildings you listed have 2 fucking 110-story buildings collapse next to them? Do we need to call Captain Obvious? Don't tempt us, because we will.
Did somebody say Captain Obvious? Let's not also forget there was significant structural damage both above and below ground. And no steel didn't melt. Instead, it was severely weakened. You can trust me on that one. Get it? Mum loves that one.
With the support of a group called Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, Professor Leroy Hulsey of the University of Alaska at Fairbanks conducted an independent study whose findings were released in 2020. Professor Hulsey found that office fires of the kind in Building 7 on 9/11 could not have produced sufficient thermal expansion to cause the crucial girder to fail. It's impossible, he found. And more significantly, he and his team found that NIST's explanation does not account for what anyone can see on video.
So what about the FEMA report? Did you give it a NIST? Get it? Get it? Give it a NIST? Yeah. So what's NIST-T? Honestly, I am curious.
Which is that the entire building came down all at once. Not in a progressive collapse, but in a total collapse. Something else, therefore, must have triggered the downfall. There's only one thing that could have triggered a collapse like the one we saw on television, and that is a controlled demolition. That was his conclusion.
Oh, so let me get this straight. Let's just suppose it is a conspiracy. Then why have every camera in the USA recording a controlled demolition?
Hey guys, me again. Look, if you ever want to get away with anything, rule number U on O. Don't get it on camera.
Our ability to analyze the collapse is limited by the video that we have. We don't have footage of the south side of the building where the fires were, because the cameras there were likely destroyed or obstructed by the collapse of the Twin Towers.
We showed the photos earlier, so if you don't have video footage, even though there is, it didn't happen. All right, David Copperfield.
One issue with the controlled demolition hypothesis is that the widely circulated video of the building coming down is selectively edited.
Didn't we already say this? I am sure we already said this. If you want, I am here to make it more obvious, like a dog in heat.
In fact, the building did not exactly collapse all at once. It came down in 2 stages. What you're seeing now is the full video of the collapse. It shows the penthouse collapsing first, and then very quickly, the rest of the building going. The unedited video leaves more questions than it answers. It calls into question the official NIST narrative, but it doesn't conclusively show a controlled demolition either.
Right.
But one group of scientists did collect and test 4 samples of dust and debris collected by a Manhattan resident about 10 minutes after the collapse of the Second World Trade Center tower.
Relying on the guy that likes to collect dust? Classic. I also like to rely on people that collect their toenails. Seriously, I got some keepers.
2 the next day, and a 4th about a week later. In 2009, they published the results of their study in the Open Chemical Physics Journal. In those samples, the scientists found distinctive red-gray chips full of highly energetic and thermitic material. In other words, they found traces of explosive compounds. To its credit, NIST's report did investigate multiple hypothetical blast scenarios, but found it would be impossible to carry out on any floor in the building without detection, and would have required removing or cutting columns with welding torches and placing wires for demolition.
Well, there you go. Case closed. Nothing to see here. Even the official report ruled out explosives. Now, seriously, Celeste, you and me, CCP.
NIST found that window breakage patterns on visible floors was not at all like expected from a blast.
Break it down for me, doctor, in English.
Yes. So you see, if no boom boom, as building crash, glass in no break are the same.
NIST did not test residue from the attacks for thermite, but did note that thermite burns slowly relative to explosive materials and would require several minutes in contact with a massive steel section to heat it to a temperature that would result in substantial weakening. Additionally, they estimated that at least 0.13 pounds of thermite would be required to heat each pound of steel section to approximately 700 degrees Celsius, the temperature at which steel weakens substantially.
Yeah. So once again, doctor in English, for the love of God.
Really, what is said here, it is just much easier to fly plane into building.
Which means that if Building 7 were demolished using thermite, many thousands of pounds of thermite would need to have been placed inconspicuously ahead of time, remotely ignited and somehow held in direct contact with the surface of hundreds of massive structural components to weaken the building, making it an unlikely substance for achieving a controlled demolition. NIST also says that an explosion big enough to take down the building would have been considerably louder than any noises recorded around the time the building collapsed.
Right.
Yet, eyewitness accounts say they did hear explosions inside the building.
All this time, I'm hearing all type of explosions. All this time, I'm hearing explosions.
Hang on, doctor, but if it was thermite, as they suggested, there wouldn't be explosions, correct?
Correct you are, sir. Well done.
We attempted to interview that witness. His name was Barry Jennings.
But unfortunately, he exploded at the age of 53.
Exploded, or was it thermite?
Most likely his cholesterol level, a ticking time bomb.
Just 2 days before NIST released its report on Tower 7. The film director Spike Lee attempted to cover this story in an HBO docuseries entitled NYC Epicenter's 9/11 to 2021 and a half. In an interview with the New York Times, Lee said the amount of heat that it takes to make steel melt, that temperature is not reached. And then the juxtaposition of the way the Building 7 fell to the ground, when you put it next to other building collapses that were demolitions, it's like you're looking at the same thing.
Sometimes when I go to his zoo, I can't tell the difference between an elephant and a giraffe.
Yes, we call that being clinically retarded.
For saying this, Lee was excoriated by the press, which usually lionizes him. He suggested that the official 9/11 narrative might be wrong, and for doing so, he was called an anti-Semitic conspiracy theorist by the Times of Israel.
Yep, you know what? That's exactly what I hate, because what you're doing, Davina, is taking one thing and calling it something else and just, alleviating the responsibility that these people have for their own actions.
But wait a minute, white people commit crimes against white people too.
In the end, Lee re-edited his docuseries and removed portions that were skeptical of the official story of the collapse of Building 7.
Well, where I came from, we call that being weak, but put your ideas out there, even if they are clinically retarded. Reddit sure took over from there.
Another unusual aspect of Building 7's collapse is that some media outlets reported it happened before it actually happened.
Oh, okay.
Here's footage of the BBC reporting that Tower 7 was down. Keep in mind, this was filmed live 20 minutes before Building 7 actually collapsed.
Jane, what more can you tell us about the Salomon Brothers building and its collapse?
Salomon Brothers was Building 7's major tenant, and you can see the tower in the background of the shot. Was that just rushed reporting on the day of the attacks? Or did the BBC have advance word that the building was coming down?
Wait. So let's suppose it was as a false flag and all of this was planned. First thing you would do is share it with the news.
$4.99. One easily missed footnote says there was a surge in put options.
Hey guys, come on in here. Let's have a shot every time he says trade or put options.
And then against American Airlines on September 10th. Incredibly, the report goes on to note that 95% of the trade against United Airlines was made by a single US-based institutional investor.
It's New York, it's the stock exchange, things go up, things go down every goddamn day. At one level, the whole goddamn exchange is corrupt.
So who was that investor? Well, we don't know.
Great work, gang! Now let's truly find out who Mr. Investor is so we can all go home for a big bowl of strawberry ice cream.
What the hell is that?
The US government is still hiding his name. They refuse to tell us. Why? No one will say. The commission report says an investigation by the FBI found out the trades
Oh, there it is again. Drink.
were, quote, innocuous, whatever that means.
Oxford defines innocuous as not intended or likely to offend or upset anyone. And when used in a sentence, the question asked to Celeste appeared innocuous enough, but I still do not have my chili crab pasta.
Researchers have since discovered that these trades
Celeste, drink!
are far from innocuous. For 7th, the number of put options
David? David, I love you.
Lynch. Both banks had sizable offices in the World Trade Center. There were also notable surges in gold and oil call options.
Remember that business trip to Hawaii when we got matching coconut tattoos and made sweet love?
In advance of the attacks. But who could have known the attacks were coming, apart from Al-Qaeda? One highly significant yet often overlooked aspect of the 9/11 attacks is that foreign intel agencies, including those of ostensible allies, likely had detailed prior knowledge of the event.
It was just yesterday that we heard the UK government handed over loaded AKs to terrorists in order to foil their plans. Yeah, someone always knows something.
These 9/11 hijackers had come from Germany. Were the Germans asleep at the switch?
I had a point. That wasn't even the point.
Do you have one? What is your point, Derek?
All right, think about this. Think about this.
What about the Saudis? There is solid evidence that members of the Saudi royal family.
Celeste, quick, you better come in here. Remember that new model camel I was talking about earlier? Well, check this one out.
Were working with Al-Qaeda terrorists.
The 9/11 Commission, not surprisingly, ignored this subject altogether. Here's what we know.
Who would like some dessert?
As early as January of 2001, France's Foreign Intelligence Service learned that Al-Qaeda was planning a hijacking plot involving a U.S. airline. What did the French tell the United States and when? We don't know. But the French are not alone. Others knew.
Well, there's no doubt that the Israelis and probably the British had better information than the people working against Osama bin Laden in the agency. Much better information.
Michael Scheuer ran the CIA's bin Laden unit in the late 1990s. One reason foreign governments may have had superior information is that the NSA frequently shared signals intelligence details with them.
Hold up, at this point they didn't know who the NSA were, so they were Zorro, but didn't have a horse and a terrible 90s adaptation.
It withheld from our own CIA. Signals intelligence is a type of espionage that deals with intercepting phone calls and radio communications.
We needed the collection of signals intelligence out of Afghanistan. And since there was no central telephone company or communications companies, it was very limited.
Wait, so they didn't even have a telephone company, so I guess the CIA had to train those lads not just to fly planes, but use a phone too, hey?
You had to be lucky to find the signal. Well, we found a couple of signals, and we shared the information with NSA, and they collected information and wouldn't share it with us in the raw form.
We're so hung up on this notion that we have some obligation, cut him some slack until he can overcome these historical injustices. It's crap. This stuff you guys are saying just perpetuates it. All this liberal nonsense, Everyone's turning and looking the other way while our country rots from the inside out. Christ, Lincoln freed the slaves, what, like 130 years ago? How long does it take to get your act together?
Well, Jews have been persecuted for over 5,000 years. Are you saying that it's wrong to feel sensitive about anti-Semitism?
NSA reports are generally summaries of what people say over the phone. You don't really know always who's talking to who.
Oh, Howard, excuse me, but your wife's cookies are out of this world. I think she's in the shower, Howard. Do you want me to go check? You won't worry. I'm here and... Oh, these cookies! I gotta get the recipe from Les.
The first thing we did when we got the first copies of translated material, we sent them to NSA and said, can you please provide the other half of this?
Ted, I need to speak to my wife. So could you get her on the phone, please? Who told you you can eat my cookies?
And they said, thank you very much, but under the 1947 Act that created NSA, we don't have to share that with anyone, and we're not going to.
No! No, that's fine. On your way out, just tell her I will be a few minutes late, but you shouldn't worry. Put that cookie down! Now!
But somehow, the Israelis and the Saudis always were able to find out something was there that they wanted. And so when we refused, they'd call the White House would call the DCI, and the DCI would say, give it to them.
Don't interrupt her.
Who the hell do you think you are?
She's right in the middle of making a point.
We know very little about NSA's foreknowledge of 9/11.
Oh, well, thank fuck. Thank fuck, something he knows little about.
Because the 9/11 Commission barely investigated it. Keep in mind, the NSA is the largest American intel agency by far. And yet the Commission never assigned a staff member to research NSA files, in part because some of the 9/11 commissioners and staff simply did not understand what the NSA was and what it did. Even now, the NSA's terrorism archives still have never been thoroughly reviewed by outside investigators. If someone ever did go through those files, they'd likely find a treasure trove of previously undisclosed warnings about the 9/11 attacks. The NSA was the primary agency responsible for monitoring the switchboard through which al-Qaeda operatives communicated with each other.
We can confirm that we have obtained exclusive footage of the NSA switchboards operating on 9/11. Remember, this is the first time it has ever been shown.
Yo.
Hello, Shorty. What are you doing?
Nothing. Sitting here watching the game, smoking some bud.
Are you all alone?
What's up? What's up?
What the? Who's that?
Yo, pick up the phone. What's up?
What's up?
Yo, Duque, pick up the phone.
Yo.
What's up?
What you doing, son?
Nothing. Just chilling. Killing.
True.
That's it. I cannot work under these conditions. If anybody wants me, I'll be downstairs at McDougal's. Call the weekend guy. I don't care.
A number of foreign governments may have had foreknowledge of 9/11, but the Israeli government stands out in particular. And here's why.
About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld, and we've made the decision we're going to war with Iraq. This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, we're going to war with Iraq. Why? He said, I don't know. He said, I guess they don't know what else to do. So I said, well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to al-Qaeda? He said, no. He says, there's nothing new that way. They've just made the decision to go to war with Iraq. He said, I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments. And he said, I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail. So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, are we still going to war with Iraq? And he said, oh, it's worse than that. He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, this is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran.
On the morning of 9/11, a group of 5 Israeli nationals purported to have witnessed the initial explosion of the World Trade Center and were seen to be celebrating the event.
We know we didn't get the right footage last time, but we can confirm that we have obtained exclusive footage of such celebrations. Oh, for the love of God and everything that's good in the world, shall we try again? Well, don't ask me. Well, I guess that is pretty close.
It's striking to see operatives from a supposedly allied country celebrating the mass murder of Americans. But it is true that some in Israel saw the attack as a good thing for them. A September 12, 2001 article in the New York Times quotes now Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu responding to the 9/11 attacks. Quote,
Burger King. I like Burger King.
"It is very good."
I like Burger King. The answer is
"It is very good."
The burgers are better at Hungry Jack's.
Before adding, well, not very good, but it will generate immediate sympathy. Netanyahu predicted that the attack would strengthen the bond between our two peoples, because we've experienced terror over so many decades, but the United States has now experienced a massive hemorrhaging of terror.
Right, my family. So you know what? I don't give two shits about you or anybody else or what you think. You're not a part of it and you never will be.
That has nothing to do with it.
Oh, it doesn't? You don't think I see what you're trying to do here? You think I'm gonna sit here and smile?
When the Israelis were arrested in New Jersey, they were carrying box cutters, multiple passports, thousands of dollars in cash, and photos of themselves smiling with the World Trade Center burning in the background.
The Israelis are always for the Israelis first. They don't like the United States, except for the most part, our money.
Who's building a new Federal Reserve, or he's doing a renovation of a building. Maybe he's up to $4.1 billion to do a renovation of a few very small buildings. It's the highest price in the history of construction. He's spending more money than any building has ever spent per square foot on the renovation of, as an example, I'm doing a magnificent, big, beautiful ballroom that the country has wanted, the White House has wanted for 150 years. It's a massive job, and it's a tiny fraction of that number.
I'm so sorry, Doris. I really am. He's gone.
It's just a boy. Without a father.
Doris, you don't know the world your children are living in.
Okay, well, here is something we agreed. Let's just save everyone a lot of time. Follow the money. Forget everything else. Just follow that money. Are there questions to be answered as to what happened on that day? Yes. But focusing on the ridiculous takes away from what might be worth saying.
And we should never shy away from the U.S. military's involvement in the Middle East. Enemies were always going to be created.
And the fact that another terrorist attack of such magnitude never again happened on U.S. soil may highlight that outcomes from the Commission report have saved lives. Some people are taught how to love, and others how to hate. And at times, that's as simple as the world really is. Because in order to belong, we do need to go through pain. The imagery of Jesus and sacrificing himself highlights that to be closer with God, sometimes we do need to go through painful experiences. And if Jesus isn't your jam, perhaps John Wick is. The architect says it's always good to end with a quote. It says someone else has already said it best. So if you can't top it, steal from them and go out strong.
We are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. Though passion may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection. The mystic chords of memory will swell when again touched, as surely they will be by the better angels of our nature.
Because it has already begun.